everyone. Thank you for listening. This is the BANGover podcast. With us today, we have Robert Jenkins. Junior Jenkins? Do you have a middle name?
Wilson.
Wilson Jenkins.
Robert Wilson Jenkins.
I like it. That could have been like a country, like if you were a country star, you wouldn't have to change your name. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that would have worked.
Right. And I could be even more dignified if I went by R. Wilson Jenkins.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could write
Jenkins
checks.
Band. Yeah. The Jenkins boys. You and your brother dual.
Well, my
dual
brother
acoustics.
and I, my brother Richard, he actually lives here in town. You've met him before.
I've met him. He
Yeah.
played one of our showcases.
And he and I actually do some songwriting together. And we have a band that doesn't exist called the BANGovers.
The Von Dingos?
The BANGovers.
Was that what you guys recorded? Our producer Chris over here?
Yeah, we talked
Was that
about
one
like
of
Chris
them?
like coming in and playing some guitar. We did, and you did. You played some guitar on one of the songs.
That's yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
This is all right.
Yeah. Oh, fuck you.
You could use some vocals.
Songwriter stuff. It's not your deal.
It's not for everyone, asshole.
Yeah.
I get that. Okay. Sorry. All right.
Anyway.
Anyways, Rob, you were the bass player for our band, your band, my band, Chris's band, Flooded Tomb. Flooded Tomb.
Yeah.
And you know, I really wanted to bring you here because I thought you had like a really fascinating tale of like getting back to it, getting back jamming again. And Flooded Tombs is definitely a part of that. But like every great story, we have to go back in time. So how'd you get started playing music? Like 1945 is when
Close.
It was around after World War II.
That was actually probably in. I started playing music in 1980, in sixth grade, and I played trombone in sixth grade band. That was the first instrument I played, which incidentally is a bass clef instrument.
That's what I was thinking. It was like it's in the bass, it's in the back.
But if I can take it back before that, because there was always for me a deep interest in music, and there was always a lot of music in our household, in the sense of what was being played on the turntable or the 8-track
Right.
player, you know, at the time, and in the early 70s, you know, the Nashville country sound was really big, with artists like Crystal Gale and stuff like that, Tammy Wynette, Tanya Tucker.
I know none of these people.
And there was a lot of stuff like that being played in the house. But my mom was also a really big fan of James Taylor. And so a lot of his stuff was getting played in the house at the time. But a real change came for me like right around 1975, 76, when Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Tom Paul Glasser, and Jesse Coulter put out an album called The Outlaws.
Oh, right. I heard of this one.
And it was a phenomenal album. And I used to sit there at the turntable and spin that album over and over and over and just stare at their pictures on the cover. And I'd occasionally alternate it with Johnny Cash's album that had Ring of Fire on it. And then shortly after that, like 1976, Waylon Jennings put out a solo album called Old Waylon, and had the famous hit Lukenbach, Texas on it.
Oh, right.
But
good old Lukenbach,
that
Texas.
one,
It's a good old Lukenbach, Texas.
Lukenbach, yeah.
It looks the same as it did back then as it does today.
That album was kind of like a game changer for me, because I don't know what about it like caught me, but as a young kid, I just listened to that over and over and over.
Something about it made you obsessed. There was something, an element that you were just like fascinating.
Those two albums right there were very different from that earlier Nashville sound that you were hearing, and because it ushered in the outlaw country era.
Right, I hear this all the time living in Texas, like outlaw country.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is outlaw country?
And it's a thing, because things weren't quite as slickly produced. It had a harder edge to it.
A little bit of grit.
They had, Waylon had a song on there called Satin Sheets, and I think it was a Willis Allen Ramsey song that he covered. And, part of the refrain, the chorus in that song is praise the Lord and pass the mescaline.
I thought it was a song about sex.
And so there's a little bit of a harder edge in the lyrics and
drugs.
in the way they're playing. And it brings to mind a quote of Waylon's to me where he said the difference between country, R&B, and rock and roll is a drum beat.
Oh, I like that.
And I like that too because it's true, and it really kind of crosses over to genres,
Yeah.
Like what, rock and roll is a big word. It encompasses a lot of stuff, and we can get to that in a minute. But I think that's a really cool
way of
analysis.
looking at it. Yeah, and a way of looking at it, because if you see it like that, then maybe you can start to break it apart and and finally create that formula.
Music has an interconnectedness to it.
True.
That
It's all music.
is really unifying, and that's what was cool about the outlaw scene, is because you had for once rednecks and hippies going to the same shows and actually kind of getting along.
Yeah, I heard that story of first ACL, all the hippies are sitting down watching Willie Nelson, and all the rednecks are there too.
Yeah.
But they're standing up, and they were kicking the hippies for sitting down, kicking them, just kind of being a little passive, not really kicking at them, I don't think. But Willie stopped, and he was like, "Hey everyone, we're here to have a good time, get along," and totally just defused. It's because they're two different crowds. He said
something like there's room for those who want to dance, and there's room for those who want to sit.
Yes. Dude, that's amazing. He took control of the situation. He was like, "Hey,"
and they got along.
Yeah, and they was
it worked.
"Oh, well, he's my boy. You're a friend, and he's my friend." So
yeah,
I like that.
So that's kind of where I was musically before 1980, and I was in this kind of country phase.
Yeah,
and
still had a little bit of grit. There was the grit that you really liked.
And in 1980, I was still kind of there. Something that changed was we moved to a real small town. My dad was a minister, and so we moved around a lot, in the Central Texas church circuit, as I call it. And so we moved to this small town called Brownwood, which is north of here, past Lampasas.
Okay.
About 75 miles southwest of Abilene. Kind of in the middle of nowhere in Texas, in the Texas Hill
Country.
Country.
There's a lot of those places.
Yeah, there are. But so I moved there, and I'm a young kind of country cowboy kid. And one day,
did you have a cowboy hat?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I still do, actually. Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, you'll see it someday.
With the black metal corpse paint.
In my corpse paint and a cowboy hat.
Black country. Wait, that didn't sound right. No, take that back. We'll edit that out.
Cowboy death metal. Yeah. We're on to something.
Oh, blast beats.
So this thing that happened, a couple of game-changing moments, life-changing moments for me, happened in Brownwood. My brother brought home some 8-track cassette tapes.
Okay.
We still had an 8-track player on a stereo. He brought home AC/DC's Back in Black and Black Sabbath, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. And
those were the two he brought.
Huh?
Those were the two he brought home.
Yeah. He bought them
Mega
at
hits.
like a bargain basement bin at some record store.
1980. Yeah.
And
they're like, we're just giving these away. No one wants them.
well, I mean, people were trying to get away from 8-tracks at the time, so they were selling them
device.
cheap.
Okay. Yeah.
So he popped in AC/DC's Back in Black, and the first thing you hear are the bells for Hell's Bells.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Sick, dude. You're like, what's happening?
And I kind of went, huh?
What's happening?
And then that little guitar riff starts, and my ears perked up, and I was like,
I can hear it
what?
right now.
Whoa, this is
Gives
cool.
you goosebumps?
And all of a sudden it was like different, and the song started, and I was just
different.
like, it just like sunk its claws into me, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
Now this
This is really cool. This is harder.
This is what I
heavier.
was looking for.
And then War Pigs, Black Sabbath War Pigs, I heard that.
Right. Take that one out.
With the
this one
sirens and all this stuff, and I was like, holy cow.
Did that one have the song Black Sabbath on it?
Well, this was their compilation, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll.
So
So it was
Had
like a greatest hits
everything. Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that song Black Sabbath was on
Has
there.
that same type of feel as like the beginning of, that AC/DC where it's just like
Yeah,
there's the rain.
it just has that,
Yeah.
that kind of, that
Yeah.
tritone, like that.
And it's like it's raining, and you're like, what is this? And it takes so long to get into this
Boom.
fucking song, dude. It's
It
2.5
just sounds evil.
minutes.
It just sounds evil.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, save me.
And so all of a sudden, this like heavier style of music started to get to me, and I was like, wow, what's going on here? And so later on, around Christmas of 1980, 81, maybe, my brother says, hey, I want you to get me this record for Christmas. It's called Blizzard of Oz by Ozzy Osbourne. And I hadn't really made the connection that Ozzy was Black Sabbath's singer at the
Right.
time, but I thought, okay. And so my mom and I went to the record store and I said, this is what he wants for Christmas, Mom. And she looked at him and she's like, oh, God.
Is he like laying on the floor with a cross
Yeah.
and a leotard?
Yeah.
Just spandex, kind of.
Yeah.
It's cool.
He's got the cape on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's pretty rad, dude.
So we bought it. He opened it on Christmas Day. We put it on the turntable. Holy shit.
Dude, that's a
Crazy
great
Train.
fucking album.
Crazy Train is the opener, right?
Let's start it off with the hit.
And you also had Randy Rhoads playing guitar.
First time ever you hear it.
And,
before.
and that guitar sound was so radically different at the time. It was, because even my ears, just getting into metal and hard rock, I heard that and I was like, what?
It's fast. It's some
Yeah,
fast picking,
it
right?
was fast. It was
Yeah.
heavy. The solos were just ripping.
Yeah.
And you just hadn't heard a guitar player like that at that time. And that was incredible. That was a truly incredible, game-changing, life-changing moment for me musically, because this music had so much power to it.
Yeah.
And so it pulled me in. So I'm listening even more and even more and even more. And by this time I'm playing trombone in school.
How old are you at this point?
Sixth grade, so I had to be like 12.
Listen to this
Yeah,
devil music.
12, 13. Yeah, which was starting to drive my dad, the minister, crazy.
Do you think your brother got into the style of music because your dad was ministering?
No,
just-
I think it was
It's just good music.
It
wasn't a
It's
rebellious
good
thing
music.
where he's just like reading the lyrics like they're like his Bible. He wasn't doing that. He was just like, this is cool.
Yeah,
Listen to the play.
And we were Methodists, so it's not like he was a Bible thumper evangelical.
Okay.
He
He didn't hit you.
But
Nothing you were
as
going
as the minister's family, he wants this certain image projected, and here I am getting into this rebelliousness.
And you're 12.
I'm the youngest of three,
Yeah.
and
Corrupting
so
your
I'm
mind.
always like trying to get the most attention, and so I'm doing whatever I can to get it, and it's not always didn't always pan
just
out too
walking around the
great
house like this.
for the ministerial image, but so we kind of go along that way, and then because he's a minister, we're having church functions at our house and youth functions at our house. We're hosting events, and so there was a Super Bowl party one time, and for me, this was like the moment that changed it. A Super Bowl party, and I hate football, so I'm not watching the game, and so some of the kids in the youth group, we all gravitate into my bedroom, and I've got a little cassette boombox in there.
Yeah, you guys want to hear something
This
evil?
one guy who was just visiting, wasn't really a member of the church, but he was just kind of hanging out with somebody. He pulls out this cassette tape out of his
Out of his-
denim jacket.
Of course, his denim jacket. He's like, you guys want to hear something?
Yeah. He pulls out a cassette tape. And
What
so
is this?
he says, put this in, and I put it in. And we listened to it, and it was Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast.
Oh, we're here.
Yeah. So 83, I think.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
at-
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm listening to this and just going, oh wow, oh wow, and the song "Number of the Beast" comes on, and I'm just like, wow,
Dude,
It's
some of the best
mind-blowing.
musicianship ever.
Every
It's
song
just-
on there, "Number of the
Woo!
Beast," "Children of the Damned," "Invaders."
It's also well done too. Like
yeah.
these songs were, I don't know how they. Where did they come up with this stuff?
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
know.
It's
I
just
don't
like
know. But the
they
thing that
were
got me,
trained
we listened to it once, we flipped it, we played through it
Oh my God!
twice.
Rewind it.
We played through the tape
God, I miss
twice.
that feeling.
by the second time, I'm actually kind of singing along with it. But in the Number of the Beast, there's that part at the end where you hear this section, and as a young listener, I wasn't sure what it was, because certainly you're listening to the guitars and the solos and the drums, but all of a sudden this one instrument goes up there and starts doing this.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that's a hell of a sick part, dude.
what's that?
What
And
instrument is that?
what
Oh,
is that?
that's a bass.
It was the bass.
First time I ever heard a bass, I guess.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
Steve Harris, right? monster player.
Hell of a bass player.
So I'm sitting there listening to it, and I hear that, and I'm like, that's what I want to play.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, I want to play the thing that's doing that.
It was so covered up in like, especially the AC/DC thing. You could probably hear it more so in the remaster Black Sabbath, but the bass really does cut through on those.
Geezer was a monster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but something about that Iron Maiden, like all the parts were so well, spread out on the album to where you hear everything, and
Yeah.
the guitars are like panned on
Well,
each side of your head,
and
and
you
the
think
bass is in the
about-
middle of my face.
You think about Steve Harris's style. He had that galloping style,
Yeah.
like on Run to the Hills, bum ba da 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 bum ba da
It's
bum
pretty
ba da
sick,
bum.
actually.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's just like it's different. It's a different rhythm. You can hear his parts better, and it was just mind blowing to me. And so that's when I started to notice the bass a lot more. And so when a friend of mine got a guitar for Christmas, he was like, "Hey, we should start a band." And I said, "Okay, I'll play bass."
You were a bass player from the
Yeah.
beginning, not a guitar player
Yeah.
that turned into a bass player.
No,
True,
right into bass.
True fucking bass player.
Yeah,
That's what
right
I
into
love.
bass.
Yeah.
And the band never materialized because right after he got the guitar, the next
Kids.
year his parents moved to South Texas, and yeah, they just never took off. But I
Man.
still wanted to play bass. And so I went through this crazy, crazy metal phase, just listening to as much as I could. Ozzy, Diary of a Madman.
That's a good
If
album
you thought
too.
Blizzard of Oz was good, holy fuck.
That's my favorite Ozzy album. Is Diary.
It's so good.
Yeah, and it's from
It's
start
so
to
good.
finish. I like to listen to it in the order that it goes in.
Yeah,
It's like 8 or 9 songs.
Yeah.
It's quick.
yeah.
But
And they're powerful.
They lead up each other. Each song
Yeah.
leads up to the next song.
And
you're
you
just
finally
like,
end
yes,
with
yes.
Diary of a Madman and have
Yeah.
that choir and just that
Yeah, that's an epic.
massive, epic song. So I'm going through this phase. I'm getting more and more rebellious. My dad's getting more and more pissed off.
Yeah. Hail Satan!
But
No, I raised him wrong.
but in 1985 we had to move, and so we moved from small town Brownwood to Arlington, Texas, which is
The big city.
big city. Really was. Really
Yeah.
was. And so immediately I'm in this high school in Arlington, and um, I'm getting in a lot of trouble.
You're a
Getting
kid.
suspended from school, and or not off-campus suspension, but they had on-campus suspension. So
Oh,
I
clever.
spent a fair amount of time in there. But
In
that's where I
school
met my best
suspension.
friend. And he was a guitar player, and he was actually a really good guitar player. He still is, matter of fact.
Oh,
But at the time, he could play all that Randy Rhoads stuff. He could play Crazy Train. He could play the solos, and we were just like,
dude, this guy's
Wow.
amazing.
so we started a band. And we decided that the best way to go about playing would be to play, like we're going to play covers. Well, we didn't want to play. We played like Crazy Train and a couple of Dio songs, but we played mostly Black Sabbath and Rush.
Jeez, those can't be easy songs to learn.
Right.
Still
right.
to this day, I'd be like, we're gonna play a Black Sabbath song?
It was
No.
a really interesting way to cut my teeth on bass playing. We didn't really play any Iron Maiden. I still loved them. I still listened to them. Went and saw them live on the Somewhere in Time tour.
You think it's because the drummer
I
couldn't
think even
hang?
the Power Slave tour. But that was like that when we moved to that big city, that bigger environment, and that was the first thing through my head when my dad said, "Hey, we're going to move to Arlington." I was like, "Okay,
Yes.
I could probably start a band up there."
Yeah.
But that was kind of like an interesting incubation phase, where I'm playing with this guy. We're young musicians. We're trying to learn pretty complicated music, and like going back to Brownwood, I remember when Moving Pictures came out, and my brother brought that tape home and listening to that, just going, huh? Are you kidding
How
me?
does someone?
How do you,
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer drum fills and be
Yeah.
like,
This is a
seriously?
3-piece. There's more. There has to be more people in this.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, we played like that through high school, and towards the end of high school, Pat and I, the guitar player, his name was Pat, uh, we started getting really into fusion jazz, like Alan Holdsworth, Steve Morse from the Dixie Dregs,
Okay.
just virtuoso players.
Would you put like the John
Chick
Zorn?
Corea, John Patitucci.
Would you put like John Zorn in there? Because that's all I
Who?
know. John Zorn?
No,
No.
not quite.
I was
Not
thinking
quite.
that Naked City.
To me, that was more experimental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought
Um,
that as like the fusion jazz.
this was like just real, almost like game show music kind of jazz,
Mm.
you know. But it was wild because we would listen to the parts and be like, holy hell, how do you
Weird
play
time
that fast? How do you
signatures,
play that complicated? How do you do that? And that was the first time I ever saw somebody play a 6-string bass.
You're like, I didn't even know they added 2 strings.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had that.
Yeah,
They must have
yeah.
just
No,
came
I was
out
walking through.
with
I was walking through the
years.
record store looking at jazz recordings, and I saw this picture of a guy named John Patitucci. At the time, he was real young. He was probably like 19 or 20. A virtuoso player.
Oh man.
He was playing with Chick Corea, who was an alumni of Miles Davis's band.
I have
Yeah,
that name constantly comes
Yeah.
up in any music.
yeah.
talk-
Iconic,
conversation. Right,
iconic
yeah.
jazz player, pianist, musician. But his bass player in his electric band at the time was a guy named John Patitucci, and he put out a solo album. And on the cover of the solo album is just a picture of him with a 6-string bass, and I was like, that's a bass, wow. So I bought it and listened to it, and I was like, holy cow, you know. So it kind of started broadening the horizons a little bit.
Right.
And so in 1988, after I graduated high school, and I'm really like doing the math for you on my age now.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, how old are we now? Do you remember?
By the end, we'll get there. I I moved to Austin, and so Arlington wasn't really working out anymore after high school. My mom had already moved to Austin, so I moved here and did my best to like play music as much as I could. And
Right.
hooked up with a lot of different people. I was trying to play some jazz stuff, but there was this like gap between my knowledge and the level of music that I was trying to play. And
Yeah,
I
totally
kind of
understand that.
sat in that gap for a long time, not really knowing what to do.
It's a seesaw, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get to the next step in
Yeah.
your playing ability? Especially when you have no one there to like kind of show you the way. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I took some bass lessons, and
Yeah.
I tried to take them as consistently as possible, but it was really hard to finance it and to
The
keep it
information at
going.
that time was not like you had to pay for that information. You had to know someone that knew that information. It wasn't like how we are now with the internet, where you can get real good, real fucking fast because of the shit that's on
Right,
there.
you
know
can
what I mean?
you
And
can
we
go to
broke it down.
Fender.com and just watch lessons.
Boom,
You
yeah.
can go to YouTube
Study.
and watch lessons.
There's fucking apps where you can just play along
Yeah.
on your phone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Plug in your guitar.
Yeah, none of that was around.
Yeah.
You had to go take lessons to get somebody to show you the ropes.
Right.
Or you just had to keep sitting down and listening, hitting rewind,
Just
and
always going to that
Playing that
fucking
part
that
over and
bar
over.
where that one musician plays that all
Right.
the time and like trying to pick his
right.
brain constantly.
Is that the
Yeah.
note? Nope. Is that the note? Nope. Is
Yeah.
that? Let me listen
Oh,
to it
man.
again, over and over. Which I think to me is actually a really fascinating and useful way to learn.
You're
You
doing
know?
it the hard way.
I kind of miss it in today's day and age, and still go back to it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's kind of like
Um,
the mystery.
I've closed some of the distance on that gap in the interim in my life, and so now I have different ways of learning. But I played in a lot of bands, and some of them, we played some pretty good shows and had some fair little runs of success. And I played plenty of shows where there's like 10 people in front of you, and it is what
Hey,
it
man,
is.
we all been there.
Yeah, I mean we've all been there.
Just the other bands and their girlfriends out in the crowd, man. I know rock and roll.
Yep.
I know rock and roll.
Yep. But this thing happened. A girl I was dating at point in time, she heard me play, and she was an actor in the theater scene here in town, and she mentioned to somebody else who was doing some acting with her, who was a musician, that she knew this bass player, and he was looking for one. And so he contacted me, and he was doing some kind of experimental, fusion rock jazz type stuff, funk jazz.
Okay, it's the time
Um,
for it.
and so I went and played with him, and he had a drummer with him who played like no one I'd ever heard before. Old school New York jazz drummer.
Oh,
And
traditional style, I'm
like,
guessing.
yeah, he
Yeah,
could play all kinds of
just
beats.
running on this
And I was
fucking.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
wow. And they were kind enough to kind of take me under their wing and say, yeah, we think you're solid enough, so let's just kind of do this thing. And we made a few recordings, played some shows, and but the thing that he did at every rehearsal, I had this thing called a reel book, and it's a book about this thick of jazz tunes. It's just charts,
Okay.
you know. And so we would go to each rehearsal, and he made sure you had to take your reel book, and he would just sit at his keyboard, piano, and he would open it up and say, okay, this song. And so I'd open it up, and you just have
Sit
to
down
start
to play it.
improvising and playing and holding together as fast
Wow,
as I could.
that's
He started every
intimidating as
rehearsal
fuck.
that way. And so it was really kind of pushing me to learn how to read charts, learn how to improvise, learn how to, you know,
Yeah.
play in a musical situation where you're really communicating with music. And so during this time, there's a club down on 6th Congress Avenue called the Elephant Room. Still there.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a jazz club.
Yeah.
Um, and they used to host these open mic jazz jams. And so um, he kept saying, you need to go down there and just sit in. And I'm like, no,
Dude, that's super
ain't gonna
fucking
happen.
intimidating, right?
It's super intimidating.
Hey, I know you don't know any of this
Because
shit, but get up on stage
the
and why don't
guys
you play
that
with
sat
Bunch of
in,
guys? Yeah.
the guys that sat in could play. I mean, they could play. So anyway, he keeps bugging me, and so one night I go down there with my bass, and
Start slamming
I'm like,
cocktails, nervous.
I asked the leader, I'm like, hey man, can I sit in on bass? And he said, maybe.
Ooh.
And so
Maybe.
he asked my name, and so eventually it's kind of a slow night. He called me up, and um, he said, what song do you want to play? And I put one out there, and he went, nope.
That's a good start.
I know. And it was, to be fair, it was a really complicated song.
You were like, I'm
Yeah.
going for the fucking
I know.
swinging
I
for
was
the
like,
fences.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
all or nothing.
Fuck you.
Everything on the
Yeah.
menu.
Don't want me to play. How about we play this one?
And so I said, well, how about this one? He said, okay, we'll do that one. And so we started playing, and we're playing along, and I did my job. I held down the low end, I held down the rhythm, I didn't screw up the song. But what I realized during that session, during that jam, is that the guys on stage were having a distinctly different conversation.
Then you were.
Well, I wasn't
then
even
you were
included.
like a part of that. Yeah.
They quickly realized, oh, this guy's he's just going to hold down the bottom, so we'll let him do his thing. And they played together. It's like they didn't really even need me.
Yeah.
And I could feel that. From a musical perspective, I could feel like
You weren't connecting with
I'm
any of
left
these
out
people. Yeah.
here. And so that was another kind of life-changing moment for me. It wasn't a failure, but it wasn't a success.
It's a
And
learning experience.
it was a great learning
Yeah.
experience because I walked out of there thinking, if I'm going to do this, I need to learn how to do it, or I need to just kind of hang it up.
Yeah. If you
Uh,
fucking do it right, goddammit. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I decided at that point because I hadn't been back to college since high school. I didn't go to college right after school, right after high school. And so at that point I decided, okay, I'm going to sign up for some music classes, and I'm going to try and start understanding this, and I'm going to see if I can transfer into UT and get a degree in jazz, something.
Something
Jazz
music.
composition, jazz performance, jazz bass, whatever. So I got started at ACC. The the kind of interesting thing that happened here is that my teacher at ACC, my music theory teacher, he was finishing his DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts
Hmm.
degree in classical composition. And so he taught theory from a compositional point of view.
Okay.
And as much as I wanted to learn jazz, I was kind of getting all these insights into the great composers, into orchestration and stuff like that, and learning theory from that point of view. And it really kind of changed my mind. And I still wanted to transfer into UT, but I wasn't quite sure I wanted to study jazz anymore. And so
Mm.
I really got my chops together and started playing double bass with a bow
Yeah.
and learning classical cello pieces and stuff like that to get through an audition at UT. And I did, and I got in and decided that um, after a certain point in time, I was going to change my major to classical composition. And so that's what I did. And I studied classical music composition, and wrote a number of pieces, which a selection of which I recorded. And you can actually find those on Spotify and Apple Music.
I can't believe I didn't listen to this before the show. Yeah, I really didn't do my research. I was like, I know this guy.
Shameless personal promotion right here. The recording is called Raise Just Die. And
Raise Just Die.
you spell that R-E-S. It's two
RES.
words. R-E-S. Gestae.
We'll put a link up in the post for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Latin for things accomplished.
Oh.
And
Cool with
so
yourself, are you?
so I kind of put some of my chamber music pieces together and had them, professionally recorded and performed and recorded. And so a lot of that stuff I wrote in school, about half to a third of it I finished after school and kind of expanded some of the pieces. Um, but it's out there, it's available, and I'm pretty proud of it, actually. It was a lot of
I'm
work.
definitely gonna fucking check that out. But on that note, we do have to take a quick break.
Okay.
So we will be back.
That's a good pot.
All right, we're back with Robert Jenkins.
Rob.
Robert. Rob. Okay, sorry, Rob. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you by your full Christian name. Where we left off in the story, getting crazy into orchestrating music.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got my degree in classical composition. While I was at UT, I did a lot of teaching as well, but mostly with young kids. So
Okay.
there was a program there at UT called the University of Texas Turing Project, and you can sign up for it. Kids sign up for it, parents sign their kids up for it, and um, they teach kids how to play stringed instruments. From basically kindergarten age, preschool and kindergarten, all the way through high school. So all skill levels. And so I did a lot of teaching and really enjoyed that. Um, the, I guess the mistake that I made when I got out of UT is I didn't come out with a teaching certificate.
Mm,
And so I wanted to continue teaching, but I didn't have that extra little thing that would help me secure that
a
position.
job, right?
Yeah, a job. And even though I tried alternative certification for a plethora of reasons, it didn't work out. And at that point, I got really disillusioned with music.
Kind of burnt out. Or
Yeah,
something? Yeah. Just
yeah.
you've been doing it for
I wasn't
so
playing. I wasn't
long.
playing in a band
Yeah.
anymore. Classical music, as much as I love it and still do and still like to write it, um, it's very expensive to produce, and it's not easy to network in that
Dude, there's a
crowd.
lot of fucking people in these
Um,
bands.
so I just kind of stopped, you know.
Kind of frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. God
And
damn it.
there was
What's
actually
this
a
for?
point where I took all my equipment, which wasn't a lot at the time. I had a guitar, bass, and some amps, and I was taking pictures of them. And my wife walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to sell it." He said, "Rob, why?" I said, "I don't need it anymore. I'm not playing. Why keep it?" And she just kind of stopped me and she said, "Don't do this. you'll regret it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll put it all away, but we'll see. And I kind of owe her a debt of gratitude for that,
Right.
because
Keeping you in
even though she really doesn't like having my amp stacked in the house, she understood the importance of it to me, and she kind of kept me from doing something that probably could have proved very fatal to my interest in music at the time.
Yeah, just you
And
as a person. I
yeah,
mean, really, like,
yeah,
this brings you great joy.
yeah,
That's what I
it
feel
really
like it does
does.
for you.
It
Yeah.
really does. So I went through this whole period of just not making music. I quit reading it. I quit writing it. And at some point, I think it was 2015, I decided that I wanted to kind of get back into it a little, maybe, possibly. And so I had a little recorder that had a built-in drum machine, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to write a song once a month for a year. And I
Okay.
started in January. There were no genre constraints or anything. It's like whatever idea took
Whatever you
and
felt.
held, I was going to do it. I just went with it. And so I kind of started doing that, and I started writing a little more. And I didn't have a band, so I was doing all the parts myself, programming the drums, playing the guitars. And when I started when I felt brave enough to put vocals and write lyrics, I sang all the parts and sang all the vocal harmonies. And those are out there on the internet too.
Not promoting those though.
Actually, I would. I mean, they're on a Tumblr blog
I
and they're on my SoundCloud page. But
I listened to a lot of your SoundCloud when you
yeah,
first
you've heard
started.
them.
Yeah,
You know?
and yeah, I guess I heard some tracks with some vocals, but I didn't know if it was you or not. It was
Yeah,
before I even met you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we were like, so this guy's like interested in the band. Here's his page, and I was like, okay,
But that's the thing. It's like
okay.
I have no shame in those songs at all.
You wrote them, you put them out
I
there.
wrote them,
Yeah,
I put them out, I did it all, I did all the work, I got it out there, and it got me back into something that I love,
right.
you know?
A great passion.
And it kind of goes back to one of my composition teachers in school. He did this really cool thing where, I brought this piece in one time, and it was this real obscure experimental harmonies, and he was playing it at the piano from the score, and he just stopped and he was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, I've got my jury coming up, and I just want the faculty to know that I can use contemporary techniques." And he said, "Yeah, but it's not you. You don't write like this. You write really pretty harmonies, and you have these nice harmonic foundations, and this isn't you."
Doesn't feel like you.
And that was a big lesson for me. It's like he said, "You don't write for the jury. You write for you.
Yeah,
Write the music that feels right to you."
because you'd be
And
genuine.
and so that's what that little year of song project did for me. It's just like whatever comes out, I'm going to go with it. Some of them sound like metal. Some of them are singer-songwriters. Some of them are kind of experimental. There's even like a couple of techno things in there because I was playing around with my new computer at the time. And
Right, just experimenting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of go with what works.
Write it, listen to it a month later, and be like, okay.
So at that point, I started realizing I really liked the metal stuff that I was kind of coming up with. And I remembered, I kind of went full circle back. I was like, I
Wait,
love metal.
yeah, what happened there?
I love it.
Where did we go into the classical realm of music?
And it's okay. It's fun to take the journey. But
Yeah,
I came back to this thing that I love, and I'm like, this is so cool. And I'm kind of playing around with these riffs, and now, like I told you, that knowledge gap had closed a little bit. And so now I have the knowledge to kind of write down the things that I want,
yeah, picking up
and
those
the
pieces,
ideas. I can
right?
just write them down. I can sketch them out and be like, okay, now I can remember that. I'm not going to forget it because I wrote it down. And and so I had a system in place to remember the things that I was doing. So I started sketching out all this stuff. And one night, after writing some of them down, I decided, I'm just going to try it. And I opened up Craigslist, started an ad, and it said, "Middle-aged black metal dude looking for band
I
to
don't think that's going to get
record."
mixed up at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
middle-aged, black,
Middle-aged black guy. No, not
looking
quite.
for. What is this ad
It
for?
wasn't in the personals.
I think he's into bass. No, I don't know what that
But
is.
I just kind of put out as much information as I could and said, it'd be great if we were all the same age, but it's no big deal as long as it clicks. Um, and I put it out there, and like two people responded really quickly saying, "Hey, dude, when do you want to rehearse?" I'm like,
Bass player? Bass player?
maybe we should just talk first.
It's like on those dating websites where
But then
like those people come off strong.
this other guy
They're like,
responded.
"We fucking or what?"
This other guy
Take me out to
responded, and
dinner
he said, "So I've got this band, and we're looking for a bass player, and we might be able to help you if you can help us. We're not, completely opposed to going in that sound direction, but this is kind of where we are now, and so maybe we can try it out." And so I emailed back and I said, "Yeah, that sounds fine. I'm interested with that. Like I said, I'm pushing 50, and
Not getting any younger.
yeah, I'm not getting any younger. So if that's a problem for you guys, if you guys are younger than that and that's a problem, you might want to just know that." And he wrote back and said, "No, it's really no big deal. And this is where we rehearse at the music lab." And so I went down there and walked into your room.
And that was the day we met you.
That was the first Flooded Tomb rehearsal that I had with you guys.
What a vague response that Nathan always sends.
So
we're like,
what I'd
we're
be kind of interested to
experimental,
hear,
man. I don't know, if you
what I'd be kind of
want
interested to hear is, after that first rehearsal, what was your impression?
First rehearsal, I was, well, okay. A lot of bass players in that band. I want to say like 10, but it was probably like 5, and you might have been the 5th one. So we were having like some really bad luck with bass players, and my whole life as being a drummer, I never met a fucking bass player. We made bass players. There was some guy that came in and said, "Oh, I know how to play bass," and he would totally fuck up every song. And we're like, "Just get out. It's just bass and drums. Get the fuck out." And no one played bass, you know what I mean? So my style developed around not having a bass player, where I add all these, like, a lot of parts to kind of fill in. Like, if I could fill in these parts, I think I'll be okay, Like, the sound will never drop, and that's the idea I'm trying to have in my mind. So I think this is my fault, because every bass player came in, I'm not willing to turn around and change my style. I'm like, if you can't do what I'm doing, there's the road. So I was like, I was probably a little bit harsh when you first probably came in. If you got that impression where I was just like,
No.
I wasn't really looking at you or like trying to follow you or play with you. I was expecting you to follow me, and that's probably the worst mindset to have, because I learned later on, like, it's so much better, even if it was like whoever I was playing with, it was like, okay, like, I really gotta like focus in on this person, even if I don't think like, like, man, you could like, I don't really like that bass part. I still gotta like, I gotta focus in with them, and I gotta look at them, and we gotta start moving together, and I gotta start changing the way I move things around, because it
You have
really
to be
does.
a rhythm section.
Yeah, yes. I never had a rhythm section in my entire life, and probably until you, to be honest, like a real fucking bass player, and you're probably the first bass player I've ever met that was like legit didn't play guitar, didn't start from guitar and move to bass,
Right.
played bass, and I was like, oh, and this guy wants to play with us, and I was like all for it. I was like, yeah, let's grind, dude. Like, if you want to sit here and grind each day, dude, you know me, I love to practice. So I was all about it after a while, because you just kept coming back in, and that's what happened with a lot of our bass players. They just stopped showing up.
From my
Because we
recollection
killed
after
them.
the first rehearsal is I walked out and I was like, okay,
No.
that sucked. No, it wasn't.
We
It wasn't.
sucked?
No, it was my
thought you were cool,
performance sucked, because I was trying to learn these guitar riffs and
Right.
try and play along with it, and I
I'm
was
like,
trying
here,
to
check
get
out
the
this drum
arrangement. But it gave me enough to where the only recordings you guys had at the time were your little rehearsal recordings, where you had a mic in the room and you just put it up on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it was
And you
like,
could barely really make out what was going on, but it gave
kinda
me
get the idea.
it gave me enough to where I was like, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going back next week, so tomorrow when I get up, I'm gonna start writing out my bass parts, and so I just kind of did that, like I remembered that song, I remembered that song, I remembered that song, and listened to them on that recording. I was like, okay, what are they doing there? Okay, and I could text Nathan and say, hey man, what key is this song in?
Yeah.
And he would tell me, and so I was able to kind of piece parts together. And when I went back for the second rehearsal, I was able to play parts that I'd specifically written out for the songs, and kind of like expand on those. I just kind of sketched
Right.
out some ideas, and I was kind of able to expand on those, but I'd also mapped out the forms of the songs, and I was like, okay, this feels a little better. And so we kind of started gluing it together that way.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off from there.
And I found myself, like, when you started playing with us and started writing those songs, I found myself like, oh, how much my style has kind of changed because now we have a bass player. So now I can kind of hold back. There's some songs that we wrote before you came in, you were like, these fucking songs don't fucking work on bass. And I'm like, it's probably because of how I wrote the drums and how just where it's supposed to be. If anything, it's like just so repetitive, like the double bass and the slamming, and just trying to keep the energy alive. So now it's kind of like holding back a little bit.
Right,
you know
you don't have to
do
do the double bass all the time.
Exactly.
You can actually save some of your own energy.
I mean, I don't want to be a pussy or anything, but
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
Like it's not because I get tired.
I wouldn't want to
It's
do
like,
your job.
the singing and the playing after that Safe House show, I thought I was gonna throw up there for a good
push hard,
45. Yeah.
Push hard.
It was at the end. This middle finger just like went completely dumb.
I know.
I
I
was just
saw
like,
you.
I was like, it's like the last 30 seconds of the song. I was
Don't
like,
drop
just
the
fucking
stick.
keep going,
Don't
man.
drop the stick.
I'm like, I'm probably causing myself like
Yeah.
damage that's gonna last my whole life now.
Yeah.
Just pushing through.
No, yeah, it's a tough job, but
Well,
but I don't know.
you make it easier for me, that's for
Good.
sure. Yeah.
Good.
Where it's just like I can hold back and we can let this song breathe,
Yeah.
and have that bass guitar in there
Yeah.
because it's my favorite
And
instrument.
that's what
you
a
know
rhythm
what I mean?
section should do.
Right, yeah.
you know?
And we should be working together and the guitars are there to
Yeah.
add to things,
Yeah.
but it's all really about that bass and drums, you know what I mean?
But it's really been interesting to me, being in Flooded Tomb and going, taking that long journey from 1980 to here,
Wow.
and just playing in so many different bands along the way, and getting in Flooded Tomb and realizing that this is the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Oh my god, dude.
Playing music,
Yeah.
it's just
You show
it's
it
just
when you're on
great.
stage, that's for
It's
sure.
just great.
Yeah.
And I think back to like the mid '90s when I was playing in like a funk hip hop band, and I was hauling my gear down to 6th Street on a Tuesday night to play to 2 people, and being like, man, fuck, another gig on 6th Street Tuesday night, blah
Great.
blah blah.
Great.
And now I don't even really have that resentment anymore. It's like I don't mind loading up my stuff in my car and coming down and trying to find the parking place and hauling it into the club. I like it because I'm having fun playing.
Yeah. And I enjoy the grind. I like the drive to the show, like the how I feel, it's like butterflies and like getting that parking spot and you're just sweating, it's like trying to get your equipment out. You're like, oh God.
One of my favorite moments in my entire musical career actually was not even playing music. It was going down to the Devil's Night show that we did.
Oh,
at
right.
Beerland.
Yeah. To the BANGover.
Yeah. And I was all done up in corpse paint. And so I'm on 5th Street and I pull up to this red light and there's this car that pulls up next to me. And, I'm at the wheel and I just look like this.
Honda
I've got this
Accord.
normal expression on my face, but I've got corpse paint on. And so I turn and I look,
through the devil
and there's
horns.
this there are these 2 young ladies next to me. And I turn and look at them, and she turned and looked at me like that and went,
Scared her? This is still like the day before Halloween, and she's just, oh my God, you're terrifying.
And I was
you're
like,
it fucking works.
I had never felt more ready to rock than that. I was just like, oh, this is going to be a great gig because I must look evil as fuck.
By the way, for the listeners, the only one in the band that showed up in corpse paint.
Yeah, but
we were trying to do the hood thing, and when I was playing, it was like the worst idea we ever had. I was like, yeah, let me wear this cape. Like Jerome, and he was drowning me, dude, and like choking me the fuck out in the first song. It was like going over my hands, and I was like, this is dumb. This is the dumbest thing I've ever thought of.
But I don't know. So it's been like this really long, interesting, fascinating learning experience journey, and I'm glad that I've kind of come to this point in my life where I know that music is something that I don't want to ever let go of.
Right.
And I'm glad that I've come to this point in my life where I have like a corner full of basses in my room.
You have quite a lot of equipment.
My wife doesn't like it, but
you even have a drum set out in the garage.
I do. I have a whole like anybody can just show up at my house and jam.
She's not even like, what are you looking at on your phone? She's not even thinking it's like porn or you're like cheating on her. You're like, you're not gonna buy anything else, are you? And you're like, no, and just like delete that screen. Delete. No, I wasn't looking at equipment at all.
And actually, like the funny thing is like lately I've been kind of getting an itch to play guitar a little bit, and now that we've kind of like networked with other bands and musicians, like Forbode and Monty Luna.
Yeah, wouldn't it just be fun to like just fill in? I always thought that would be like
I've kind of thought about putting out a little thing saying, would any of you guys be interested in just showing up and having like a psychedelic jam session at my house
like
one day?
A compilation that we record.
You bring your guitar if you want. If you don't, you can play one of mine. I got plenty.
We got a drum set.
I've got amps. I've got drums.
Yeah.
I've got a PA.
You just jam out.
Yeah, and just have
sit around like a bunch of old folks and just jam.
And just have, like I said, like a psychedelic pre-jam session, and just
banjo.
Plug in effects and just see where it goes.
I mean, the bands that you listed is just like they're gonna come in and be like,
Maybe.
It's just like grind. They're gonna get all genty,
Maybe, but
I would like the idea of like a compilation, like if you just got like some
Immortales,
really awesome fucking people to like come and like just write songs together and like, oh, this is what's his face from this band with the drummer from this band, and we just wrote this one song. It's like a Metal
really,
Alliance
like
that Roadrunner does all the time.
Eddie
cool.
from Forbode is a great guitar player. Michael Munoz from Mortales, fantastic player.
Yeah, the drummer
man.
from Montaluna. Play drums.
James Clark, Monty Luna, really good player, man.
Yeah.
And you've got all these guys in the scene, and to me, I really love where the Austin metal scene is right now. It's really cool.
You've been here a while, like you've seen it.
Yeah.
Since
1989.
Yeah. We didn't.
No, 1988. Yeah.
Agony Colony was our band. Agony Column was our thrash band that came from Austin.
Yeah.
I guess as
Dangerous
soon as they became
Toys,
big.
Pariah.
Right. Oh, okay. It was all in that time frame as well?
Yeah.
It's really that old of a band.
Yeah, like Shandon Sam was Doug Sam's daughter. I'm sorry, Shandon. If you watch this, I am so sorry. Shandon
Shout
Sam,
out.
Doug Sam's son, he played in Pariah, metal drummer, and Meat Puppets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is,
and now he's doing a thing. He lives over in Amsterdam now, and he's doing a thing. He's about to come back, but he covers his dad's music now.
So that's pretty cool.
He's doing a Sam Covers Sam thing.
Sam Covers Sam. That's a pretty good title.
Yeah.
I think the one reason why we even have this podcast, and the one reason why I like to bring a lot of people in to talk is to like, the whole idea behind BANGover was to really show that we're all so connected in this town, whether you know it or not. Like, every band in this town knows each other in some way, shape, or form. It's like the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or what the fuck ever. But there is connections and people that used to play with people. When we played the Lost Will show, we met guys that me and Chris used to play with in our prior band, and we used to share a practice spot with them. Haven't seen them in 8 years. But, it's like we are like so connected, and they knew another band, and that's why they showed up, and they were like, oh, like we're here to see our buddy's band. It's like, oh, they knew them, we knew them. And that's all I wanted to point out, is like to try to maybe build connections and build a scene. And that's why I love these little interviews, to kind of like get ideas from other people, and like just talk about like being a band in Austin, you know. And like you go out and like all these people, like you have so many people that you appreciate in this town, where you just like fucking love this band. You guys see this band last night, and just really what I'm saying is like I just want to like try to build the scene up more to where everyone's so like friendly, and we all go out and to support each other. You know what I mean?
I think it's there. I don't think it necessarily needs to be built up more, but I like the podcast idea like because it brings awareness to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like no one's really talking about it, and I think one of the things that Day Eater brought up, they brought up like 2 bands that are so far away from each other, like Last Judgment, which is a thrash metal band, and then talked about Day Eater and how they just played a show with one of those, like with both of those bands, but created connections when they played that show. And then they play shows together all the time. and look at the dramatic different styles from the Dead Coats to Last Judgment to Day Eater.
Yeah.
There's all three different styles,
Yeah.
but they constantly play together all the time.
Well,
There's something to be said about that. It's like we can like share these shows of psychedelic doom, thrash,
Yeah.
punk. You know what I mean?
Well, that show that we did, it was a Gravitoid show, but we did it at Kick Butt, and we played with Nagagio and Cyanosaur.
Yeah.
And there was that touring band, I forget their name.
They were like super thrash metal.
They were like 80s thrash.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, really
Bunch of
cool,
kids.
really cool sound,
Yeah,
keeping that
skateboarders,
sound
yeah.
alive. But then you had Nagagio, who's totally black metal.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
You know?
it's all over the
And,
place.
and those guys, I've been kind of in communication and listening to some of their stuff and watching their social media feeds. They're awesome, dude. I mean, the way they nurture that sound
right.
and just keep it alive is
Like, this is what we
so
do. Yeah.
encouraging and beautiful.
Right.
It really is.
I
And
kinda-
then,
ooh.
you have these duo bands like Monty Luna and Cyanosaur, who are just two people slugging it out, man, and making huge sounds.
Yeah, with two people.
Yeah.
Just a wall of
Yeah.
sound where
Yeah.
if I'm not watching your band, it's because I forgot my earplugs at home and I can't be inside. I can't.
I don't leave
I
home
can't.
without them anymore.
Oh man, I forgot them at that Lost Ball show and
And by the way,
regrets.
I'm 50.
I didn't know that until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
thought
Actually,
it
you
was
didn't
rude
know
to
that at our
ask.
last rehearsal because you were talking about the
That's-
Lamb of God bass player, and you said, yeah, he's like 50 or something.
You're like, I'm 50. I
I'm
was like,
50, dude.
no, just I didn't mean anything by it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I carry earplugs with
Yeah.
me everywhere now.
So you were probably the reason why we got that comment.
No, actually, the stepdad comment,
Yeah.
that was Nathan because he was,
Oh, right, in the
he was
button-up
dressed
shirt.
in the button down with
I
the
think
Ron Swanson mustache.
The mustache is.
Yeah,
kinda
I got all the hair comments.
Dude, you cover me up every show. Step to the left, sir. Clip him with the bass. I don't give a fuck. Like, get out of my shot, dude. I'm singing. They're like, who's
I'm
singing?
actually like
I don't see anyone on the mic.
In the parts that you sing, I'm actually making a conscious effort to step a little closer to Chris.
Okay.
So I can open up some
Thank you.
line of sight for you.
You are
So
thinking
can
about
see
me
you.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, it changes
Yeah.
everything.
All of my family that watched the live stream said, or they asked rather, why is the drummer nude?
I was wearing shorts that time,
They
but
can't see it.
the shorts are more revealing than the underwear.
Yeah.
I can wang out.
Yeah. I do like the dinosaur underpants that you have.
I like those too. They're fitting.
Yeah.
They keep it tucked in. I'm not like flopping around like
No,
after
no,
the show.
no.
I'm like, they're like, great
Yeah.
show, man, but can you put your dick away?
Talk about keeping it in the pocket.
Okay, why I do it is not to be sexy. Let me just say it right here on camera. It's not. I'm not trying to show off my beautiful body, even though it's beautiful.
You sweat like a stuck pig.
Yes, and I only have 2 pairs of pants,
Yeah.
so I can't waste one. You see what I'm saying? So I have more underwear than I do pants.
Yeah.
So I burn some underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish I just had the compilation of like the photos of me in my car, like slipping down those wet underwear,
Yeah.
taking off my socks, trying to put on pants, people walking by.
We're gonna get a GoPro for you.
I'm not getting dressed in the fucking bathroom at the Lost Well, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah, let me take off my shoes.
I don't
in
even
there.
like to pee in the bathroom of the Lost Well.
I just go like this.
I do, but
I go in there just for the drugs.
Yeah.
That's all I. Yeah. Is anyone doing coke? No, I'll be back. I'll be back. I don't like paying for it. All right. Well, before we end this, got any shout outs besides Flooded Tombs? What's up? We got that new demo.
Flooded Tomb.
Yeah. You do the flute. What is it called when you fix the guitars? What's that word?
Setups.
You just say setups?
I mean, it depends on what you need done to it.
I thought I heard like some
Luthier?
fancy. Yeah, some
Yeah,
fancy.
I'm not a
word.
luthier. I don't build guitars. I don't build guitars.
Okay.
But I do. One thing I'm really trying to do is get a message out to the metal community
Okay.
that we play with, obviously,
Listen up.
and just let them know that I specialize in basses. So if you need a setup or some minor repair work on your bass and you can't do it yourself, I can help you out.
6 strings.
String changes, fret polish, neck adjustments, pickup replacements,
The whole 9 yards.
You know, if your pots or your knobs are scratchy on your bass, I can probably fix that for you.
Okay.
Input jacks, soldering.
I know a lot of people
Yeah.
actually.
I'll clean up the instrument for you real good. I mean, some people like the funk on there, but sometimes it's nice to have it off.
Well, I never even asked. Do you have a page set up for that?
There's a Facebook page.
Cool.
It's called FClef Custom Shop and Setup.
That's what I was trying to like FCLEF custom.
FCLEFF. Custom Shop and Setup.
Setup.
That's
Cool.
actually FCLEFF. That I tried to keep the secret for years, but nobody gets it, so I'm just going to say it. It's a musical pun for loud bass.
I thought it looked like it looks like a musical note, right?
Well, the bass clef is called the F clef.
Okay. Oh, F clef.
But clef is only spelled with one F. So it's F, C-L-E-F. And then the F after it is a forte, which is the musical indication for loud.
Holy shit.
So, loud bass.
That was super clever. I wish you were there when we were picking our band name.
It's very incognito.
No one knew about it. Super clever. I'm glad you told it out to the world, whoever's listening right now. Yeah.
Now everybody knows my
Yeah.
secret.
And we'll link that up too. Put you down.
I do work on guitars, but
we don't really like
what I'm
guitar
really
players.
trying to do is just let the bass community know that if you need help,
You're here to help.
I can
Yeah.
help you out.
Maybe pass on some of that wisdom as well. That
Sure.
of 39 years, 29 years.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I can certainly teach lessons if anybody needs help there. I've got teaching experience, but the main thing is like a lot of these bands, they're touring around, and you go from one arid climate to a very humid climate, and it helps to know how to do some of that work yourself.
Oh, so you really do have to adjust based on like where
because
you're
if
at.
you drive from Austin, which is crazy humid right now,
Okay.
to El Paso, which is
Dry
as a cotton ball, your neck is going to change.
Really?
And it might
That
be
makes
nice.
sense.
It might be nice to know how to adjust that if you need to fix it for
Yeah.
the show.
Fucking A, dude. Well, that's a piece of advice for all you bass players out there.
Yeah.
Watch the climate. Well, Robert,
Scott.
R.
R.
thanks for
Wilson
coming out.
Jenkins.
Yeah. RJ
That's my
RK
billionaire name.
Jenkins. You're looking like the billionaire right now. Well, thanks for coming out, and thanks y'all for listening out there.
Thanks for listening to my story.
Yeah. Later.